Broadcast live.
Scoop Makhathini had the opportunity to sit down with a person that is a pillar of our culture, from his style, his pioneering spirit, his business moves, and his high acumen for following your dreams. Ouigi Theodore is who we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. These events took place in December 2019 BC. That's before COVID.
I've been a follower and a student of the man's work for a while now. I remember Brooklyn Circus t-shirts when blogging was still starting back in the day. What fascinated me was his motto, which was a 100-year plan, and the emblem being the mother elephant leading the child elephant. And fast forward then, street cred happened. He was here with Art Comes First. Fast forward to that, and it was an honor to be present at the airport to pick him up for his leg of his tour right now in South Africa. And that's what we're trying to find out. How did this happen and what is he coming to do right now? We are speaking to Ouigi.
Yes.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Good to be back on the continent.
No doubt.
South Africa, of course.
I've always been fascinated by the name because I just know Ouija boards. and your name kind of stuck to me because ever since I saw you, you literally have spellbounded me with your work.
Right.
So tell me about your name. Do you have a surname or you just operate with the name Ouija?
It's Ouija. You know what I mean? It's Ouigi Theodore. My first name is Quincy. So it's Quincy Ouigi Theodore.
Why did you go for Ouija?
It's just, I mean, again, I thought it was just more different, special. I'm sure you meet quite a few other Quincy's out there, but you'll only meet,
No doubt.
one or two Ouiji's internationally. So I thought Ouija was just it just fit my personality more. You know, it's kind of when you a rebirth. You know, your parents name you one thing,
And then
they had one set of ideas, and you kind of find yourself and decide, hey, this is like Malcolm X.
No doubt.
Muhammad Ali. They get to a place where they're like, oh, this is who I am.
And then we were speaking in the car and I found out you were from Haiti, and I've just watched the documentary that Tariq Nasheed did, which is 1804, the revolution that happened in Haiti. It informs me so much about you, but I don't want to touch on that now. You've just taken hours on the flight. So I just want you to orientate us on what you're coming to do here in this leg of your visit and how it came about.
I'm excited to be here first and foremost. This is my second time in South Africa. It's a beautiful place because of the people, the culture, and there's just so much vibrancy. And as much as, we have fans and supporters here, we're fans of what you guys are doing out here as well. Because just to see the youth, take charge, post-apartheid, you know what I mean? Of course, when you think about Haiti, 1804, we laid a foundation and we set the grounds for, of course, the slave rebellions in the US, and then apartheid here. So it's just this constant movement of thy people, or Ja people, like Marley would say. But I mean, it started from Matsala for sure, and Devin, who was a customer of ours in New York at the Brooklyn Circus, and met this beautiful woman. She's from South Africa. They got married.
As it always happens.
As it always happens, women will get you to relocate. And, they opened up this store and they wanted to carry the brand, and I heard South Africa, and I knew he understood what the Brooklyn Circus stood for because he was a client and a customer. And so it was easy for me to say yes. And then years later, we're continuing to partner and expand that partnership to see what the Brooklyn Circus looks like here on the continent or here in South Africa for sure.
So what is happening tonight? And give us a program for tonight and tomorrow.
Tonight, pretty much we're gathering to launch some product. I mean, the Brooklyn Circus product is just a continuation of things. We do release collections, we do release items and drops, but at the end of the day, it's just this continuation of a collection. So you can take pieces from the past and bring it forward, so it's a constant continuation. So whenever we show up, it's not necessarily this collection, it's just continuing to have this dialogue through the apparel and what we do. So tonight for sure at his and her store, we're excited to be there. Some music, some drinks, some beautiful South African youth, in the house. And then tomorrow is Music is King, right? That's what's
Yes,
happening
sir.
tomorrow. There's
Yes, sir.
Black Coffee is leading a music series or a
Yes, sir.
festival. So we're excited to be here to see that, because music is definitely king, and it's at the heart of what we do as a people. I'm from Haiti, so music, the drums,
It's big.
and the rhythms.
It's huge.
It's huge. It's huge.
Before I leave you, I would really also like you to explain, not really explain, but let us know how you got into contact with two shining brothers when we talk about purveyors of style in a way that is not really synonymous with the youth of their era, to be very bespoke when a lot of kids are wearing sneakers and jeans. You have Ukabelo and Wanda from the Circus, who even before your clothing came to them, they were already embodying the ethos of Brooklyn Circus. And it was so beautiful to see you guys combine and meet up, because if there's any a group of youth that understand where you guys are coming from, it's definitely them. So I would love to know, how did you get to meet them?
You know what? It's interesting, because when you opened up, you were talking about the blogging era, and so blogging and Tumblr, street etiquette, Black Ivy, Art Comes First, and then of course the Brooklyn Circus. It was a moment in time that we had our head down doing what we needed to do with the resources, the limited resources that we had, which later we realized was a volume of resources. When you compare it to others, it seems limited, but when you compare it to what you can do with that, it's a volume of things. And we had blogging, a platform where we can share our thoughts, show images of our daily lives. And it was just as basic as that. It wasn't
You guys lived it looked like heaven every time you looked at you guys. You were smiling, well-dressed, sun shining on you. It was regal and beautiful.
Right. When in the moment, we didn't realize that that's all we really needed. It was everything that we had already was what we really needed, and we just needed to, transmit that to the internets and transmit that, because when you think about it, it was so early that we were like, oh, we want this, we want the shiny stores, we want this. But at the end of the day, like you said, just seeing us in our element, in our moment, was a light, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
It was a light in and of itself. And so that's what we decided to do, just document, because we didn't want to look back 10 years back and say, oh man, we had these things and we didn't value them. And it's a value situation too. So we're constantly pushing that as, style and character and 100-year plan as really a statement of value. Value what you have, value what we have, you know what I mean? I come from Haiti, in a country that's, sometimes there's electricity, sometimes the electricity goes out, and we have that happening here. But again, we connect as people when things like that happen, when you got to flip on the generators and all these other things. We just have to value our situations and know that there's more. And how do you push that forward and not...
Bringing it back to the connection of people with Wanda and Kabelo.
Yes. I mean, the boys, again, I was sitting back and looking at them on the blogs, and I'm like, this can't be. How these youths, they were probably 18 and 19.
They were really young at the time.
Super young at the time. And when we came here, we saw these youths, and they were
dressed to the tens.
Listen, man, it's unbelievable. And I was, even some of the guys back home, I was like, listen, guys, look at this. Look at what these guys are doing with the resources that they have, and they had a certain, and they were also documenting, of course, American culture, but South African culture, and they were bringing it together so well. I was like, wow, when we land here, we must connect with these guys, because these guys are instinctive nephews for us. And as soon as we connected, it's been that since.
Awesome.
And anybody that comes to South Africa, I'm like, yo, hit my nephews up. Wanda, Kabelo, hit them up, and they're like, oh, wow, I met these guys, they were awesome. So it's just instinct, the tribe, the global village is, you can see even through the internet when someone has that sensibility. And sometimes it's not someone from your own area, your own region. So the world is open up where we can create these tribes internationally.
No doubt. I love that you mentioned that word tribe, because it's a big thing for me this year, is finding your tribe. And I've researched the advantages of living in a tribe. People live longer in a tribe, they achieve more with less effort, they're much more happier in a tribe, and so on and so forth. So right now, I think we've established the conversation really well, and we'll see you later at the conversation, and we'll be able to see and feel the clothes, and we'll go in depth about the clothing and the style and the manufacturing. But for now, I think you orientated us well.
The key to tribe is also being inclusive. Not because, of course, we've seen tribal wars. We've seen people have this exclusive mentality, my tribe better than your tribe. No. It's shared commonality, but to share that with the rest of the world and be inclusive and not exclusive. Because we've seen that exclusive culture, what that means.
Right?
You know?
Right?
So.
It's a 100-year plan brought to you by the Brooklyn Circus right here in a place that needs a 100-year plan. South Africa, Mzansi Africa, Johannesburg. We'll see you guys later.
One of the brands when I was wishing for the store was I really would love Brooklyn Circus to be in South Africa.
You know, yesterday we had the meet and greet and the talk. It was kind of like in depth, and I figured that for a large market here at home and on the continent that might not be well versed with the history of Brooklyn Circus, it would be nice to have a conversation to just start from the beginning up until now. So tell me about growing up, where and when did you move to America?
So I grew up the first part of my life in Haiti, Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Beautiful upbringing, sunny, about 350 something days of sun. You know what I mean? So
it used to be like that in SA, and then global warming.
And global warming happens, right? You guys getting to play. We do have hurricane season for half the year, but it's like rain hard and then boom, sun back up. But yeah, it's a beautiful place, man, that I come from and landed in Brooklyn.
How old were you when you crossed?
I was 8.
Yo.
I was 8.
Sure.
Yeah, but I came to America at 8, left for about a year because my sister wasn't too fond of America. And we went back to Haiti for about a year. My mom was still traveling and returned at the age of 10. So I've been there since. I
always look at people via their upbringing, because I feel like you are a sum of the experiences you went through when you were young. They have the best way to mold you, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
So just like you talked about your sister and your mother, tell me about the type of lady your mom was.
Oh man, my mom was a very strong woman, you know, God bless her soul. She passed in the 90s, but she was a very strong woman and very influential in my life and the family structure as well. I grew up with 4 sisters, no brothers.
That's me, I grew up with 3 sisters and no brothers.
Yeah. Right. So I was always in the middle. I'm a Capricorn child, so it's just a lot of these personality traits and upbringing ultimately become they become the fiber of who I am, why we launched and why I launched the Brooklyn Circus and why I operate the Brooklyn Circus the way that I do.
Father?
Father.
Did you know him much?
Nah, I met my father probably once. And I'll say once, that might be an illusion in my mind.
Wow.
But in that illusion, I remember being in a home that is sort of reminiscent of how we built the Brooklyn Circus. Yes. Library, books, old furniture, you know, big courtyard, big gate.
Sure.
You know, and in the yard, we had, what do they call it? I know the word in French, pomp. What is, oh man, I'm trying to think of what it is. Peacocks.
Sure.
Peacocks in the yard.
Yes,
you know,
I love peacocks.
Love peacocks.
Yes.
And ultimately sort of became, you know, sort of a center of the Brooklyn Circus as well when you think of the circus and the acts and the, flamboyant element of that.
It's crazy you should say that because peacocks, the male is more decorated color-wise than the female.
Makes
and
sense.
It's done to attract the females.
Makes sense.
And I've always looked at it isn't new, but it is a recent resurgence of males taking care of their
Absolutely,
grooming and
absolutely.
what they look like. It's like a peacock era of male style.
Straight men.
You know?
Straight men, to be
Straight
exact.
men, yeah, straight men.
Yeah, straight men, yeah.
So that was crazy for me, and I feel like on a daily basis. I mean, before, if there were no ladies, I would have no reason to dress fly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to lie. I wouldn't be doing it for myself. I'd just be chilling. You know,
chilling in flip-flops.
straight up. So that's crazy. You should say that. And then another thing, when you mentioned the fact that you only grew up with ladies, for me, I found it very hard to really get along with males and to really understand them, because I was not only raised by females because my dad was present, but most of the time I've spent with my sisters, and I understood how the female mind works better. So I found it very hard as I grew up to really get in tune with dudes and how they thought. Also, my emotional intelligence was way higher than most males.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that allowed me to listen to music and be able to do what I do now.
Right.
How did it work out for you?
Me, I mean, I think it definitely influenced my style and my ability to, explore more.
Sure.
Pay more attention to the details and not be afraid to try things.
Yes.
Because men,
Rigid.
Men are very rigid in how they do what they do. And now as I continue to get deeper into the Brooklyn Circus, the next phase, after 13 years now we're into the next phase of what the circus looks like. I do take some of that rigid element and add to it, which is a uniform element, like always, classic elements that we're bringing in. But when it comes down to the details and the things that we're willing to explore when it's the area of exploration, 80% is uniform, but 20% of exploration. I do lean on my upbringing with women and my experience being with women.
To make things nice to the eye,
Add
nice
more,
to feel.
Add more tones and texture and layers to things, because women are very good at the tones and the details. Their sense of smell is sharper
Definitely.
than ours. Their range of color is much wider than ours. And so I've been able to tap into that and be open, to do that.
Nice. Now, Brooklyn Circus, when did it start? What made you start it?
2006, I launched the Brooklyn Circus. I had a project before that I worked on. I was in a nightlife before that as well. I was a reggae DJ for many years. Yeah.
Sure.
I DJ'd for many years, and my love for reggae music runs deep.
Still today?
Till today, yeah, absolutely. And it was just the music, the culture, and what Jamaica represented to me, coming from Haiti to see an island of less than 3 million, 4 million people have such a big impact on the world. You know what I mean? The world. So I felt that coming from Haiti, we had such deep history and strong history, but we needed to expand our, effects on the world. You know what I mean? An impact on the world.
Showcase.
People don't know enough about Haitian history, Haitian food, Creole and Haitian language, and so on. And so I was very inspired by reggae music, and just to see again a group of people come from such a small island and what we would quote unquote say nothing and become, these sound men, these reggae artists, and so it was just beautiful. And I latched on to that. And
was it always clothes? And
clothing?
Yeah.
No, it was music first.
It was music first.
I mean, clothing was always around me because my aunt that we lived with when we went back to Haiti, she had a boarding school, and she was a seamstress. So I saw her in the house, with the patterns and sewing. And then my mom traveled, and she was very much a socialite, always dressed a certain way, and she just had a regal element to her, and bought and sold clothing.
And most Haitian
things.
people do have a long, illustrious, coveted regal history.
Oh, absolutely.
They're very in tune with their past and the land that they come from, be it that the people that were transported there were slaves. But
Absolutely.
even when you look at the history, we've talked about this, and I'm just saying this for people outside. If you really want to get your mind blown about something that should be taught in every school, especially in black areas. Do check out Hidden Colors, 1804, the Haitian Revolution, or just research it on Google. It doesn't have to be Hidden Colors, and the information you'll find there is amazing. And it does, it's indicative of your spirit and what you've done. So from music and then turning into clothing. I understand the relationship as we've all heard how music and clothing are intertwined.
Sure.
But for you personally, to make it into something that's a product now, when did it click in your head to do that?
You know, I had started designing, I mean, in high school, growing up in New York City, in Brooklyn, I mean, clothing was at the center of everything that we did.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Going to school, first day of school was like Super Bowl.
I don't imagine you any other style but this. So
This-
a young
wow.
you
Oh,
were
yeah.
in hoodies, jackets, sneakers.
Yeah. Young me, I mean, and maybe I'll show you something real quick. But young me, I'm heavily involved in aspirational clothing.
Sure.
You know, when you think about, like, this is me.
Okay,
this
that's
is
the
19
low lines.
The low line.
Yes,
So
sir.
we were heavily involved in that culture.
Yeah.
You know, because that was Brooklyn and it was very aspirational. And so when I decided to launch the brand, I launched a brand before the Brooklyn Circus called Rich Young.
I remember Rich Young. I've saw it everywhere. Fabulous was wearing it.
Fab was my business
Yes.
partner. Cheo and his two of Fab's managers, and Fab we were all business partners, four of us.
I remember that label very well.
I launched Rich Young with Fab and
That's
Cheo.
crazy.
Yeah, so Rich, actually what happened is I had the concept, we're working on a concept, and my buddy Webb came over the house. I was living in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn at the time, and he was like, man, we should do a line that's reflective of like our 90s upbringing and blah, blah, blah. And I had the laptop. I was like, yo, let me show you this. And this is, it's a project that I'm working on. He was like, yo, this shit is hot. What is that? I'm like, yo, it's called Rich Young. He's like, yo. He's like, yo, let's do this. Let's present it to Fab. I think Fab would get on because Fab was a Brooklyn dude. He was from the same era.
Always love to be fresh as well. Still
From the
today.
same era. Like you look at older low life pictures and low pictures, you see pictures of Fab.
Word.
Yeah, from B-Boy. And so we pitched him the idea and he was on board. And that's where Rich Young was launched before the Brooklyn Circus.
And then the transition happened.
And the transition happened because what I realized is Rich Young was sort of like, I always referred to Rich Young as like the Allen Iverson of the league.
Yep.
Lots of skills, big potential, but not disciplined.
We're talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that, man? We're talking about practice. I know I'm supposed to be there. I know I'm supposed to lead by example. I know that. And I'm not shoving it aside, like it don't mean anything. I know it's important. I do. I honestly do. But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
And Brooklyn Circus was the Kobe and the LeBron. Skilled and disciplined.
And yes, because they saw from the examples of the people that didn't make it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got to a point where Rich Young, we took that up to quite a bit of a big business. But we decided. The business itself kind of folded after a while. We ran the business for about 6 years. But Brooklyn Circus, I sort of separated Rich Young from the Brooklyn Circus because of the clientele that was coming to the Brooklyn Circus.
What's nice is that
For
a
Rich
lot
Young.
of people would just stop after the Rich Young.
No, but I had both. We had both running.
Running at the same
And I
time.
knew they were two different players. One was a disciplined player. One was an So when you think about aspiration in the black community in America, there's two levels of aspiration. There's of course the middle, you think about the HBCU, the historically black universities, a little bit more prim and proper. That's where the cardigan sweaters came in and the varsity jackets. And then you have the guys that were from the Hype William, Diddy, Jay-Z days of big Hummers, you know what I mean? Rims,
were satisfying
big chain.
both.
So we were satisfying both. But I realized that the long-term business, because the hip hop, the big car, big chain crowd was always on to the next one, on to the next one. And I was like, it was a big chase.
Instead of keeping up, going forward, let's go back.
So the Brooklyn Circus was more about, heritage and
Retrospective.
legacy.
Legacy.
Rich Young was like, how fast could we buy a Lamborghini and run it to the ground and buy another one? Whereas, Brooklyn Circus was about the classic, Range Rover.
Why the logo, the elephant?
The elephant, it was a mentorship.
Sure.
Mentorship.
Sure.
Rich Young wasn't about mentorship. Rich Young was about self. It was centered, and that's sort of kind of what it became.
For both of those things to be running at the same time, obviously the mind state and your just your mind state at the time must have been in two different places. How was it for you? Not battling, but juggling.
Yeah.
And then what made you? I mean, you just explained it a bit, but it's easy to do it in business. But when you turn that business and then model into a lifestyle to cut off certain things and ways of living so that you can invest into this lifestyle that would now be the spirit and the soul of this clothing and this brand. Just a shift that one has to do. I guess musicians have to do it, painters have to do it, sculptors, you know, whenever you are creative, you always have to keep yourself but evolve and adapt to the new level.
Sure.
These are the things, especially for you, I've always wondered, like, how do you get to these places? Do you read? Do you watch documentaries? Do you meditate? How do they come to you?
Yes. That's
For real.
Definitely read, definitely meditate, definitely involve myself physically and mentally in pushing itself.
It's a science.
It's a science. It is. Reading is this, I mean, it's key. You know, and
what are you
everything
busy with now? What are you reading now?
Actually, so book club. So we have a book club that runs out of
BK Circus as well.
The Brooklyn Circus called Literary Swag, and we're reading
Literary Swag.
Literary Swag.
Yeah.
Literary Swag, run by a young man by the name of Yadon Israel. And the book that I'm reading now, just started reading that, is What If This Was Enough? I think that's the title. It's What If This Was Enough? And it's really about, like, you know, it's a series of short essays about, you know, just the moment and living and thinking about life in the now.
Like that.
Yeah.
Why the particular aesthetic for Brooklyn Circus? Why on that era of American style, which I love, you know? And it allows me to be able to keep the character that I might have been accustomed to in streetwear, but to keep it in my elderly ages.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And that's it.
And
yeah.
that's, if you look at what Nigo's done, even with
Right.
Bathing Ape and then establishing Human Made,
That's exactly it.
it's exactly this,
exactly
you know what I
it.
mean?
It's exactly
And you
it.
were there before that.
Yeah, that's exactly
so,
it.
Why that particular aesthetic? For you?
You know, it's rooted in, you know, education, which is at the center and at the heart of, you know, Haitian culture. Rich, poor, you know, black, white, in Haiti, whatever it is, education is key and important. You understand what I mean? And that when you think about it, when you think about the HBCUs and you think about the 20s, you know, 20s in America, you know, we're going through some serious times, post-slavery and dealing with Jim Crow era. But you think about college style at the time and as it was rooted in, you know, college style was rooted in varsity elements and it was rooted in a certain way of being tailored casual. You know, the cardigan, yet with some sneakers, yet with some
Tucked
pants.
in,
Right,
shirt,
tucked in
not
shirt.
t-shirt.
Right, not t-shirt. And if the t-shirt, it was t-shirt tucked in. You know, all of these elements that
Belt,
right,
socks.
right. All of these details that, you know, transcended, you know, race. You see what I'm saying? Because when you became a college student, and granted, yes, segregation and of course, civil rights movement and all these things.
the Black college movement was also maybe a big thing because
the college movement in general, when you think
general.
about it, and when you think about growing up for me in the late 80s and 90s, the Cosby Show and A Different World.
Yes.
Those two things were rooted in black excellence before the word was used.
Sure.
It was rooted in black mobility. You know, you have a lawyer and a doctor, and then a young son who's trying to figure it out creatively, and they're challenged with that. And then you have the daughter who's a bohemian, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Lisa
Lisa
Bonet.
Bonet.
She's a bohemian chick. And so it's all these elements that showed the layers of, you know, black American culture. Now I brought the Brooklyn Circus is what we did, and what we ultimately want to do more of is now add, you know, the element of where we came from, which is the Caribbean and then Africa and all these other things.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
about
it's
to
about to
open
go
up the
crazy.
Yeah. It's going to get crazy. And which is why South Africa is important to us, why
Sure.
the continent's important, because now we're going even deeper into, you know, we went from the 20s onward, now we're going from 1804, you know what I mean? Or even prior to that on. So it's just so much to, and that's what the reading is, and the documentaries and all these things that we watch are important.
Nice.
To reference.
To have your references.
Yeah.
You're as creative and as inspired as your references. The more
Absolutely.
references you have, the more pull.
And I mean, as a people, we have so much, so deep. We, you know, and that's why I always say, stop mentioning those brands, stop mentioning all these contemporary things. The reality is we have so much that we can reference to actually help us position us to compete against these bigger brands.
And you don't even do fashion weeks. You're not big into fashion weeks at all.
I don't even consider myself a fashion designer per se.
What?
It's just a creative director, of course, and I can design the shit out of some clothes.
Yep.
But the reality is it's so much bigger. It's gallery, it's libraries, it's dining experiences, it's these talks, it's all of these things that ultimately.
You're an institution.
Bottom line.
Straight up and
bottom
down.
line.
You're a
Bottom
black
line,
institution.
bottom line,
Not
bottom
just a black institution,
Just
you're an
period.
institution. What I also liked back in the day, before even collaboration was happening, you would, I would like you to talk about the research element of what you do. Coming back to the fact that Brooklyn Circus is an institution scholarly. You're scholarly about your ish.
Right.
If I said that
yes.
properly, right?
Yeah, yes.
So you would go to these thrift places, you would find these jackets, and you would go back to the flannel places where they make the hats. I've seen you do this.
No, but to even touch on that, when you think about it, I have a degree in history.
Message.
Ah,
I
come
have a degree
on.
in history.
We had to pry that out.
I have a degree in history.
Sure,
and,
now it
and
makes
upon
total
graduating
sense.
from Stony Brook, I went to art school. I went to FIT to major in advertising design. So I was supposed to be an historian. I was supposed to be an archaeologist, which is my interest, or go into architecture. That was my interest. But ultimately landed in the fashion industry. So my brain.
But it was no accident.
No accident, right? My brain is wired to research.
Sure.
So anything that I do,
Sure.
I'm gonna research.
And with the collaborations that you did at the time, that was the question. How difficult is it, or how easy is it for corporates to get where you were coming from back then?
And a lot of the collaborations that we did were with brands that had a deep history.
Yes.
And oftentimes they came to us and they were like, I love what you guys are doing. I don't know if we're cool enough to do, because you're doing what we should have done
A long time
ago. And we're like, because we respect what you guys have done and we do stand on the shoulders of some of these older brands, we definitely would consider it, but under these terms. You know what I'm saying? We don't want you guys to continue to be dinosaurs. We don't want to participate in, creating this space where it's a bunch of bones laying around and we're putting on this dinosaur show. No, we want to take those classic elements and move them forward. As much as we're rooted in, the past and in history and legacy, we're absolutely rooted, or history and heritage, we're rooted in, the future, Afrofuturism, and what does the future look like?
Sure.
And this 100-year plan, that's the future. 100-year plan is not for us to look the same way we looked 100 years ago. So when you look at the Brooklyn Circus from the start and you see the evolution, you're like, it's still Brooklyn Circus, but there's an evolution, there's a maturity. Now it belongs to, a 10-year-old as much as it belongs to a 50, 60-year-old and belongs to a 22-year-old. So that's legacy brand where we can all wear it and wear it differently.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Just about life now, and you said that you were jogging this morning.
Yes.
Talk about the choices you make in terms of your lifestyle, running, keeping active, food, and how that helps, because all of these things are intertwined, and we didn't know these things, but seemingly now they're becoming clearer that everything is intertwined. Even like with people at home, it starts off with the sneaks, then it's the sneaks and the socks, and the combo that goes with everything. Then you're like, yo, I like the way I looked at one day, so I want to keep that up so I can have that feeling. And then you do that often enough, and then you go, now I don't want to do it only when I'm going out.
Right.
I want to do it every day.
Period.
And then you go,
Raise the bar.
well, if I'm going to do this every day, I can't come back to a house that looks like this.
Right.
Then your house changes. Then your couch changes. You know what I mean? And
Without a doubt.
You know what I mean? That's the way it
100%.
happened.
100%.
And then it became, I live in a nice place, I look good.
The way you travel, the people you're around, it's complete. You've literally designed your life.
Yeah.
And this is really about design. And I heard it before through design school and just in general, where you think about 90s and 2000 was a big self-help book era in the US. everybody was reading self-help books, how to get rich, how to
Sure.
make yourself better.
Rich
like
Dad, Poor Dad came
all
around
of
that
that,
time, those
all
times.
of that, you know.
The monk who sold the Ferrari.
All of that, the whole shebang. And so we were, during that period, what I really learned was that you can design your life.
Yes, sir.
And designing your life is down to who you're around, what you eat, what you don't do, what you don't say. You know, I tell my guys, you know, I mean, you think about American, you know, language or just hip hop and slang, you know, guys like, yo, how you doing, man? Yo, surviving, man. I'm out here grinding, can't complain.
Hustling.
I'm hustling, can't complain. And I'm like, the hustling, grind. I'm like, no, I'm thriving. I'm working on this, I'm thriving, you know, versus, so it's literally designing your vocabulary and then, you know, when
Creating the vocabulary
you
that
design
creates
everything.
the life.
Design everything, you know,
Sure.
because once you're done with the physical body and the outer body, you got to work on the inner with diet, and then you got to work on the mind and then the soul and the spirit. Like, what am I saying? Who am I around? Do I really believe this? Because there are times where I'll sit and I'm like, 100-year plan. Like, do you really believe this?
Yes, sir.
And if you believe this, why are you eating this? And if you believe this, why are you looking at a woman this way? If you know, so all these things, and it
feel
starts
you.
to, because if you have it out in the universe and millions of people are repeating it, you're like, yo, this is real. And so you are inspiring to be inspired.
Showcase.
Yes,
Definitely.
yes.
When you're preaching to some people, you're actually talking to yourself.
To yourself. Oh, absolutely. Sometimes you sit in the crowd and you're like, yo, I'm speaking to the younger me or to the uninformed me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes the younger you is still in you in some parts.
Sure.
The uninformed you, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, that was right.
You just get it.
You got it. But like you said, the home, like, what am I putting in my home? If I'm wearing this level of product and putting this much detail in my clothing and requesting this price, my art should reflect that. And my home, the way I smell should. And so you start to align yourself with people that are masters at these particular things.
Yep.
You know what I mean? This guy, like, this is what he does. He helps you buy art, and he knows as much as possible, you know, in comparison to how much you know about clothing. And then you've got this guy in grooming, and then you surround yourself with experts because you're creating this kind of level of product, and you need to be around these people and do it in an inclusive way, not, you know, like,
I'm the man.
nah, that's not the kind of product that I do. Yeah, that's dead.
That's really, really
It's
dead.
corny.
Sure. And then how do you maneuver social media in these days and times? What do you think about it? Just interested to know these things because the times have changed and they have such a bearing on people's thoughts and lives. So for someone like you who's in the business of vanity and looking good, but still can maintain the balance of realizing that it's not just about the outer self, but the inner self. It's not just about me, but about everybody. They are kids, and also myself. You always navigating and battling those grounds. So to learn from people like you, and also sometimes the answers you guys might not have, but it's to also just understand and know that, yeah, we also go through the same things.
We do.
That,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That
yeah,
makes
yeah,
us go,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
okay.
We're humans. We're natural. We're not these. Yeah.
Because we do look at you guys as our, sometimes wrongfully so, as our saviors, as our leaders. And I guess it's also a black problem to always need a leader and a savior instead of looking at self. And that's, I guess, one thing that the creatives, especially in this country, are learning. To look at themselves. Yes, have references, but you're the only one that's gonna save yourself.
Period. The earth is gonna save itself. Everyone's ultimately gonna save themselves. I stop trying to save people. And you're gonna save yourself. Absolutely. But I mean, as elders and uncles and bigger brothers, you know, with some more experience in the game, certain things we've figured out, certain things we've mastered. But the only reason why we're still doing this is because there is a lot that we have not figured out. And we need the youth and we need the next generation as much as the next generation needs us, more than we need the bigger companies. Do you know what I mean? We're spending time, and for me, it's more interesting to say that I'm working with Art Comes First. You know what I mean? Or working with Scoop, or working with, His and Hers, or working with, just so many talent that's out there that I've touched or collaborated with or come together with, than it is to say that I've worked with Company A, who is pretty much not interested in the genuine growth. You know, the way I hear, you know, my contemporaries, or the way I hear people talk about the 100-year plan, I mean, of course, I've worked with companies that are like, oh, that 100-year plan, but you know, once the project is done, they're not coming back like, hey, Ouigi, how's that 100-year
going?
plan? How's that going? How do we help you to continue that? Once the collaboration is done, it's like, it's done. But it's not like that with, you know, my contemporaries. It's not like that with the youth. You know, they're like, man, dude, I found out about this in high school, and I still wear the clothes, and I still, you know, it's a longer relationship. For companies, people come and go.
Back to that social media, how do you treat it? How do you operate
Social
with
media
it?
is all, you know, increments. Increments, because you can definitely get yourself lost in the space.
Definitely.
There's a lot of trash on social media. The social media is the world.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You walk into a room, some conversations might be longer, and some conversations need not be had. You might shake a hand, you might look at something and then move on. But I think social media for me is just that. It's just, you know, increments.
Sure.
Knowing how much of yourself do you give to that platform.
Sure.
Because how much of yourself do you give to other people sometimes?
Sure.
You gotta manage that.
To the Brooklyn Circus being a place that a lot of people, were talking yesterday, and you were telling me about a lot of, I mean, for us, Josh and Travis were like a big part of how a lot of people that are now making money off the creative industry started looking to those guys first.
Sure.
A lot of us started there. We were still in school, or maybe still starting off at the places and the works and the corners of creativity that have now yielded some sort of living for us. They were there, Philip T. and a lot of these people you were saying, the Brooklyn Circus was kind of like the hub for these guys. Talk about that time and what you saw in those dudes then, and just how you see them as they've developed right now.
So see, I mean, a lot of what happens is people tend to go back to that time, like it was just that time. Like there's just so much that happened before, so much that happened after, you know? But because of course, blogging, Blogspot, and then WordPress, and then Tumblr, because of those platforms, people really got the chance to see it. And it's the same thing with what's happening here in South Africa. We got the chance to see it, and we're seeing it more because of the internet. But it already existed.
You're right.
You know, but by the time we linked up with Josh and Trav, you know, there were things happening, but it was amazing that we had the platform for them to now exist. And I mean, of course, collaborate with us in those times. And we speak about those more than we speak about, you know, the big brand collaborations.
Yes.
But we've done so much after that. And there's so much more to come because the next generation of youth is a Brooklyn Circus, because we're a circus. We are as interesting.
I love that name.
Yeah.
Love it, man. I love it.
We're as interesting and as important to the elders, you know, as we are to the younger, to the youth.
Yeah.
It's a circus. It's like it's always engaging, you know. And you really look deep into it. There's so much more to the circus than all the happy stuff you see, which attracts the youth.
Sure. And it's nice when you say that, you know, with your photos as well, when you say the brand is inclusive, your photos were never, when sometimes when they shoot clothes, it really is to be like, you're not worthy of this. So the person strives to get something that they're not worthy to, they're being told they're not worthy to have.
Right.
With your clothes, there's no like, it's not, you just shoot the clothing. You know, the conversation is with the clothing much more than with the aspirational feeling of maybe getting to. You understand what I'm saying?
No, for sure. I think it is the clothing and it is the people that are in the clothing, but it's not about this. Because at the end of the day, we can all play dress up.
Sure.
You can play dress up, but when you understand the essence of what the Brooklyn Circus is about, and it's inclusive, but it's about us thriving and being better, but we can all thrive and be better because the universe is so full. You know,
abundant.
That it's so abundant. It's so abundant that you can be a gazillionaire and I could be a gazillionaire, but maybe I might not want to be a billionaire.
Sure.
Maybe I might want to be, you know, that one thing, which then sends the energy that said, like, you can continue to be everything you want through the dollar form, and I can continue to be everything I want through the spirit form.
Yes,
but that's what the Brooklyn Circus is really about, because, you know, we can play dress up, but we want you to aspire, right, to ultimately really become what the essence of the Brooklyn Circus is. Style, character, 100-year plan, evolution of urban, evolution of you, you know, and whatever that means. Because if evolution of you is you're in this loft and there's just like one plant and this platform bed, and that's your evolution,
Then so be it.
then that'd be it.
What
We don't want
happened
you
to Philip T. Annan?
Oh man,
He just
Matt
disappeared
Berry.
of the. Yeah.
Philip
yeah.
is interesting.
So I'm just asking because I
haven't
mean
seen
you might.
Phil in a while.
Yeah.
No, actually, Phil, I text Phil not too long ago, and he sent me a picture standing in front of the shop, like, "Yo, Ouigi, where are you?" I'm like,
You lie.
Yeah. Phil.
He's like a monk. You know.
Phil is Phil.
Yeah.
Phil is Phil, man. He grew up,
No
in
doubt.
a very special way, as we
Yeah.
all did.
Yeah.
And but Phil was very talented. Yeah, they ended up closing Matt Berry, which he started in college. When you think about Phil in his dorm, but he had his own pace.
He definitely
Connecticut
did.
had their own pace.
Definitely.
And they still do. Art comes first at their own pace.
Definitely.
All guys that ultimately,
How important is that?
that's the number one thing I learned about running. Running, half marathons and marathons, or aspiring to run marathons. I ran the first half, but running is about your pace. It's your race. When we think about fashion and trends and things, it's all these, like, yo, what's next?
Keep up.
No, running is, no matter how old you are, I have 22-year-olds that can't keep up with me, you know what I mean? Simply because they're trying to keep up with me. And when you think about it, tortoise and the hare, if the hare is trying to keep up with the tortoise, or the tortoise tries to keep up with the hare, the hare is a sprinter. The tortoise is a marathon. So it's run your race. Don't run his race, because when he's bent over, huffing and puffing, you're cruising.
Sure.
And you're going.
Sure.
You understand what I mean? So it's not
100%.
about keeping up, not with the trends, not with the
Kardashians.
not with Ye, because Ye ain't even keeping up with himself. Like,
Man.
I don't think he,
Yeah.
But it's really about, running your race. When you realize that, people ultimately see it, you come to terms with it, and that's the 100-year plan. It's a marathon, man.
Hey, you've got it, guys. I think a lot of knowledge has been spewed, a lot of conversations have been sparked off this, and a lot of action, hopefully, will be, started from these conversations. It's been a dream of mine to talk to this man right here, very instrumental in the way that I started thinking and attacking my creativity on a South African level, and then later, realizing that I had to talk to global people that have done it to learn more and grow more, and that's been achieved. So I have very big hopes for this platform right now. I've had them before, but every time I get to speak to people that are so instrumental in me doing what I'm doing, it gets clearer and clearer that I've also chosen to do the right thing. And that's a great thought to have when one wakes up in the morning and one goes to sleep at night. So Ouigi, Mr. Theodore.
I want to say one last thing, right? There's an African musician who showed up to our doorstep before he signed a big deal. He's quite global now, running around and speaking about the 100-year plan as if he created it. So now that we're on African soil, we want to say, we're not going to name any names, but he came to us, you know what I mean, as a young musician and wanting to, and we helped him with his first video, but the young brother's out there, he knows
Who he is.
Who he is. The 100-year plan belongs to you, but it's rooted in what the Brooklyn Circus has laid out. You can, of course, adopt the 100-year plan, as you should, as you yourself, Scoop, as his and hers. But if you're out there saying that the 100-year plan is something you created and you've got it all laid out, cut the bullshit, guys. Let's stop. If we're talking about, we're talking about our oppressors stealing from us, let's not steal from each other.
Message.
When we have the platform, because you have, a certain million amount of followers, or you have a stage where you have 20,000 people and you're talking about, this 100-year plan. 100-year plan started.
Pay homage to everything.
Respect.
It's very much important.
Respect that. You know what I mean? Because now we're in African soil. We can say it, to this brother, American brother, but of African heritage and running the world, putting out good music through of course,
everybody's
Afrobeats.
brains and mine.
I
wonder who it is.
But, all due respect, and, I'll say it now, and that's your gem. Take that and run with it. But listen, 100-year plan belongs to the people. It is rooted in what we established and we set it out. The man showed up to our doorstep because he respected us as elders, which he still says, but use your platform, use your million followers, use your music to say the 100-year plan and say where it came from. It belongs to the people, but it's not yours to say that you have this plan and laid out. And if you do, then call us and say it publicly with us in it as well. You know what I mean?
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. We
Love
got
the
that
people.
one.
Love the people.
Thanks,
Yeah, man.
Rich. Respect, man. Respect.
Yes, sir.
Broadcast live